Welcome to Wyoming's Health Watch. I'm attorney Jason Oakes, and here you'll learn the most up-to-date information about dangerous drugs, dangerous products, and safety news with hopes that it just might prevent a catastrophe. Let's get started.
Hi, thank you for joining me. Obviously, we're entering the winter months here, and as I was reminded this past weekend in my hometown of very, very cold weather. In fact, we got up on Sunday morning, had to get out relatively early, about 7:30 in the morning, and it was -5 outside. And you all know those remote starters well that live in cold places like I do. They are sometimes a godsend to be able to start your car outside and begin heating it up before you get in it, especially with your family and your kids. But one thing caught my eye last week. There was a report in New York where there was a gentleman who had done a remote starter on his Lexus out in a parking lot. And unbeknownst to him, there was an individual who was standing between his vehicle and a vehicle just across from it in a parking lot. And when this gentleman had remote started his vehicle, again, having no idea that anybody was in the parking lot and probably having not thought that there'd be any issues about starting his vehicle remotely, by doing so, it engaged the vehicle in drive, and the vehicle moved forward, pinning the gentleman that was in between the two vehicles, who didn't see it coming, pinned him between the two cars, and he ultimately bled to death. There were a number of bystanders who saw it happen. A whole host of men and even some women did their dead level best to push the vehicle that was engaged back. They were somewhat successful, but having pushed it back a little bit and trying to get the gentleman out just by one person releasing the vehicle and trying to help get this gentleman out and free, that was enough to get the vehicle that was engaged moving forward again and pin this gentleman again. And sadly, the ambulance and paramedics and fire department was not able to get there soon enough to prevent the catastrophic injuries that killed him. So when this happened, obviously there was an enormous outcry. I can only imagine how the person felt who remote started his car. It was a Toyota, and a Toyota came under fire immediately for it. However, Toyota issued a press release stating that they do not include remote start devices on any of their Lexuses as a standard fare, and that if this was indeed what caused this accident, then it must have been an aftermarket type device that was later added by the owner of the vehicle. And you can see, and I know just driving home, there's one of these flags they start raising outside of auto parts places, and one of the flags reads "Remote Key Starter Sold Here." So we did some investigation on this, and we looked at various remote starters, and we started opening some of their manuals, which I would imagine that very few people ever read, or even probably don't even receive if they get a remote keyless starter installed in their car on the aftermarket. And many of these manuals, which surprise me, often have warnings in there that people need to be aware of the vehicle's surroundings when they trigger these remote starters. Now, I have not seen any warnings that these could potentially engage the vehicle into drive. However, it seems to me that it's implied by these warnings, which I deem as far insufficient if in fact there is a risk that this device could engage the car in driving mode. Furthermore, if in fact that's a risk, I humbly believe that these warnings should be prominently sold on the box and also on the device itself if for some reason people don't get the box if it's installed, so they know that this is a risk if it happens, and if they continue to use this device, they can be responsible for anybody who gets hurt. I mean, you can just imagine what could happen. There could be dogs running around. I can't help but to think of small children running around and who would never see this vehicle moving forward. to potentially crush them. It's just unimaginable the types of things that could easily happen as a result of a car being engaged by these remote starters. So I share that with you because we're in the season where these are not only used frequently in cold places, but it's also potentially something that many people could be asking for Christmas, or even if they're not asking for it, it could be something that people have thought to give their loved ones for Christmas. So do your due diligence when you get one of these products before you have it installed. Ask for the manual, read through the manual, and specifically look closely at these warnings, because any sort of device that can engage your vehicle without you actually being in the vehicle and being able to operate it is extremely dangerous, not only to anybody who might be around that vehicle, but children, dogs, any sorts of animals, anything at all. Please be vigilant about this before you decide to install one of these or have one of these installed on your vehicle. I thank you, and I hope this was helpful. For other information on dangerous products, please don't hesitate to go to WyomingHealthWatch.com. You can also search Wyoming Health Watch on Spotify and Apple iTunes if you want to hear some of our other podcasts. Have a great day.